Welcome to Soulfront. My name is Scott, and I'll be your host. We're going to be doing a series of interviews with some fascinating, uplifting, interesting people who are focused on passion and purpose in the work that they do every day. We have a number of themes that we'll be exploring, such as facing our fears, fighting for the things that we really care about, the need for change and how to approach it, and also leadership and what's required to make a positive impact. Today, we have Peggy Garrity, who I adore. She's amazing. She was the Chief Reputation and Brand Officer at ATB Financial. Previous to that, she had her own brand and marketing company. And more recently, she's become the Chancellor of the University of Alberta. So I'm very happy to have Peggy on our show. So without further ado, let's get into the show. We'll see you there. For me, I know you quite well, but do you want to tell me a little bit about about you and what's going on in your life?
Sure. So I've been on this crazy journey for so long now, and so now I'm in my own business again, and communications business, which I love and love working with clients and advising them on things like the importance of being purpose driven and branding and good communications. And then before that, as you know, I was Chief Reputation Brand Officer at ATB for 10 and a half years. Loved that job. It wasn't really a job even. It was kind of a experience of a lifetime. Fabulous people to work with and opportunities. And now I'm getting ready to start the next new thing, which is in June. I'll start as the Chancellor of the U of A, which is a magnificent opportunity. I'm thrilled and humbled by that one. And I'm also on a number of boards that I love working with, especially in the arts.
Yeah. So when I ask, like, where are you right now? Because we're in this kind of strange place with COVID-19. Like how do you see that impacting kind of what you're going to do, because there's ceremonial activities that you would have to do in your new role,
right?
And I'm assuming people have to be a part of the ceremony.
Well, it's interesting because the university, I'm learning this. Of course, I went to the University of Alberta, so and you know what universities are like. Everybody that's been to university knows they're pretty traditional organizations. They have a lot of traditions and ceremonies. And so they're very generous getting me up to speed on things and involving me in things, even though I don't technically start till June. But there will be no convocation this spring. Of course, there can't be. And so, all credit to them, because instead of just saying we're canceling convocation and we'll see what we can do in the fall, we're going to have a celebration on June the 12th. And it's going to be a virtual celebration, and people will be able to tune in. I don't think it'll be live or anything like that, just because of all the complications around that. But people will be able to tune in, and it will be a true celebration. We hope that students will be able to watch it with their families and have their own little celebrations at home for their graduation. So we're not forgetting to mark the moment. We're just looking at different ways of doing it. And I think it's forcing everyone, including very traditional organizations like universities, to really search for different ways of, not losing things that are important, but finding different ways of doing them. And I think, honestly, some of those may become permanent. There may, I'm not suggesting that there won't be convocations anymore, because those are beautiful experiences. But in other ways, I think these things that we're thinking of doing differently in the moment, because we have to, we might find afterwards that, well, that turned out really well. Maybe we should keep doing it this way and do some other things differently. So I'm pretty optimistic that even though this is a very, very hard time, and I feel so badly for businesses in particular, because this is just devastating. I'm part of one company that is going through a lot of really, really hard struggles right now. I'm on
Yeah.
the board with the WindSpear, and we've been searching for all of the avenues that we can to keep the orchestra members on, and they've been doing individual performances for us, so we get to watch violin concertos and different things to break up the hardness of some of these days. So I think people are finding ways to cope and keep themselves engaged and stay connected.
Yeah, it's the well for myself, the institution that I'm recognizing is changing is the school system. I have a 9 and 11-year-old,
Oh,
and so I'm homeschooling. They're upstairs right now, and I've told them to be completely quiet. They have to be very quiet, so they're going to be good for at least another 10, 20 minutes. But yeah, it's interesting just even how they're starting to use the technology a little bit different, and how I'm able to spend more time with them,
right.
which is wonderful. I did, however, send a photo to all my friends of a picture of my daughter staring back at me, kind of with a blank stare, as if I'm going to do that, Dad, when I'm schooling her. So like I'm not the best at it, but there's all these changes, right? Like that come about, that are not perfect, and even friends that are teachers that I know of are talking about that, just how they're trying to set up the weekly meeting with the children
Right.
and get them to, instead of complete 25% of their assignments, get to 50%, to get to hand in 75%. But that's going to be a skill, like almost in the future.
It is. And I think one of the, excuse me, I don't have anything wrong with me. I just have to cough. There we go now. Is there's going to be a whole new appreciation of what teachers do and how they do it. I was talking with my nephew the other day, and he said he has 2 little girls, and he said he started school so that the part of the time of the day that they're going to try and do some school things, and he said 5 minutes later his 6-year-old was in tears. That's that's and it
Yeah.
wouldn't happen at school. But I think we're all adapting and finding different ways, and teachers are, because they're used to doing things in certain ways, especially with the younger kids. It's so important, I think, with younger kids that you're making those kinds of real strong personal connections. It gets easier, when you're in university, to take a course online. Lots of people do that. So I think we're going through, in a really quick period of time, trying to find our way through it. And it won't be perfect, but nothing ever is. And so to just find ways and struggle through and say, well, that worked. Well, that one didn't work so well, and keep not putting so much pressure on yourself too to make it perfect. We'll just find a way through.
This kind of segues into just another idea that I want to talk to you about, is just when we're thinking about leadership and what goes into making things better. Sometimes you just have to have, I guess, great processes, and it works well, and it's going to keep on working. But other times you need to recognize the need for things to change. I think right now is a perfect example of just so much happening. We're just forced to make big changes. But like for you, if you go back kind of in your own life, and think about when you're kind of developing as a person, what are the types of things that kind of led you to recognize that change was needed, that you needed to think differently? And you're such a creative person. You've got the painting in the background. We know you love to think a
You know
little
where my
outside the
heart
box.
is, yeah.
But yeah, like for yourself.
I think, Scott, I was thinking about this. Um, I think there are different ways that it happens. And I think I've been through lots of changes in my life, in my career, from going from having a very secure job with the provincial government to quitting that and starting my own business, to then quitting my own business, which I absolutely loved, or at least setting it aside for a while, going back to having a job, which I never thought I would do. And then those 10 and a half years at ATB, and then leaving again to restart my business, and then leaping into this chancellor role. How did I know at any of those intersections, those points, that I needed that change? A couple of times, yes, but a few times I don't think I actually realized it until after the fact. When I really do believe in people being open to opportunities. I just have this sense that that sometimes people are just have blinders on when opportunities are in front of them, and it's hard to leap at opportunities. It's hard to know which are the ones you really should go for. But I think there are times, I know when I left my business and went to work at ATB, it was just like, maybe I'll try this for a while because I loved my business. But I realized very quickly afterwards that I'd become kind of bored in my business, that it was very successful, and heavens, the opportunities that business gave me were just amazing. Um, but we get into ruts that we don't realize that we're in, and we're kind of just going through the motions, and so we're not really pushing ourselves. And then there are other times when change is just kind of thrust upon you, like it is now. None of
Mm.
us asked for this. None of us, or most of us, haven't really prepared for it. And yet you look at it and you say, how can I make an opportunity out of this? Where are some possible paths that this could that this could take me? Because I'm I'm of an age, really. I'm fortunate to be of an age where I can look back and say, change happens all the time, and it's really much more constant in life than what people kind of recognize. When you're in the midst of a long period of continuity, you think, well, this is just the way that it is, and you should get ready because something's going to change. It always does in life.
I guess the other part that I'm just thinking of is just how do you get on the right side of change? And what I mean by that is when something changes and there's all this disruption, like we have right now in the
Right.
system, you could do something and do it solely for yourself, and hoard masks. You can hoard all the masks, and you know what? It's a good change for me. I've got a whole room full of masks, and I have a bunch of hand sanitizer. It's really good. But then you can have whatever your moral compass is. When you look at the change, you see that not only do I need to be ambitious, but I need to make things better. And like you said, like when you moved into a place, say like ATB, there would have been the idea of just an adventure, right? But then beyond that, there might have been this is why I'm sticking around.
Right. And I think, it's for me, anyways. It's just the kind of person that I am. Uh, um, I I think you can always and you should always strive to make things better, um, to do something different, to create something different. You know, it would be hard for me, especially, to leap into an opportunity just to maintain it the way that it was. Um, you know, it's to look at something and say, okay, here's where I am now. Here's the change that I'm in. How can I really elevate that? How can I take that and make this a fabulous opportunity to do something better for the business that I'm with, the organization that I'm with, the people that I lead or I'm on a team with? How can we push this one step further? Because that's where the fun comes in. It's also
Mhm.
where the risk comes in and the energy and adrenaline and all of that. But boy, it makes the days fun and inspiring and, um, you know, I think that's personally, that's how I believe people succeed. And I will say at the same time, I don't think that's for everybody. I know that there are some people, and I'm not, that are just really comfortable with doing things. They find their comfort in doing things in much the same way. That
Mhm.
brings happiness to them. That's great for them. I don't question that at all. For me, and I think honestly for most people in leadership positions, that's just not good enough.
How about so another idea is looking at, okay, so when you want to make change, there is the idea of the unknown, right? And maybe for some people that's fun, right? I do think it's fun in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
I look forward to the adventure, um, but I'll tell you that I do have fears like of what am I going to do next? How am I going to do it? Or how am I going to make it better? Um, when like in your experience, what were some times where when you tried to make change, you tried to do things differently, it you know maybe it worked out for you or it didn't, but there was that feeling inside where your stomach was turning and you uh, you really needed to dig deep to get through.
I think, honestly, um, I fear is just a part of it. It's it if, you have to find that right balance between doing crazy things, like just taking a leap with no preparation and no thought. I think unfortunately I've seen some people with, they've put their heart and soul into developing a business idea and forgotten that they've got to get customers. And on the other hand, I've seen people who just are so paralyzed by analyzing all of the risks and mitigating everything that they end up doing nothing. And so if fear is just a part of it, it's kind of almost an energy that you have to mobilize. You can't be crazy about it. But I'll give you two stories in my life because they've been really significant for me. When I first started my business, way back when, I was working. Well, I'll be honest. I was working for Jim Denning, and he was the provincial treasurer at the time. And and this was the last time that Alberta was in a huge financial crisis. And so we were working on a project, and it was at the University of Calgary. And he phoned me one day, and he said, "What are you up to today?" And I said, "Well, I'm just working on this and this and this." He said, "I need you to pack your bags and get to Calgary because this project is not going very well, and I need you to get it back on track and rewrite the whole thing, rewrite this whole big report.
Hmm.
And I need you to do it by Friday because it has to go to print on Friday." And this was a big financial economics report. I'm not a financial person. Anyways, I get there, I meet with all these economists and the person that was then the president of the University of Calgary, stayed up all night and rewrote this paper, and it went to print on Friday. And I never would have thought that I could have ever done that. Was I scared out of my wits? Absolutely. This is as far out of my comfort zone as I could have gotten. But then when I did that, that report, which became the foundation for discussions about Alberta's fiscal future at that time, that led to everything else that my business did. That was the biggest, scariest opportunity that I've ever had. And you put yourself to the test. The second one was when I was at ATB. And of course, companies are supposed to have vision statements and vision, mission, values. It's every business school teaches you that, which I think is crap, honestly. And so we had a vision statement that executives had been working on, really loved it. It was our dream statement. You might remember that, Scott.
Yep.
And what I realized through some research that we were doing from a marketing perspective is that really didn't resonate with people inside the company, and it sure didn't resonate with companies. So you can imagine having to go to the president and the executive team and saying, guess what? This vision that you think is so compelling doesn't mean anything to the organization. We have to get rid of it and start a purpose, start focusing on what our purpose is. And then imagine going from, the typical vision statement to a 94-word purpose. No one talks about 94-word purposes.
Those Peggy, how did you, like, that type of conversation? Like, when do you build people around you who can understand and share that vision? Like, how do you battle and put forward an idea when, if you just walked into a room, like you said, and just kind of didn't really, maybe you gave some thought to it, but you didn't have a whole strategy or plan or team kind of behind you? Like, how do you present something like that when you want to battle?
Yeah, you've got to do your homework. You really have to think it through, and you have to be ready for the kinds of questions that you're going to get. You have to be confident enough to believe that you're right, and to believe that what you're going to do, even though it's hard, is better for the organization, that you will get to a better place. It's not like you just go in and, throw a bomb in the center of the room and say, this isn't working, and walk away. You can't do that. You have to have an idea of where you go from there and a compelling reason for getting there. And then you got to be convincing. You got to have a good pitch.
Mm-hmm. Is it also about allies and other people who?
For sure. You have to really, throughout my career at different times, I have been so blessed to have to work with people who actually believed in me sometimes more than I believed in myself, who trusted me, and who encouraged me and pushed me sometimes. And then I've been so fortunate to have people around me. I think this is something that really good leaders do, is they pick people who are actually smarter than they are sometimes, that, know things, and you surround yourself with people that you can work with and have that strong feeling that we're all in this together. It's a fantastic feeling when you're surrounded by a team of people like that, and you're all in it together and you're going to get there.
When you were doing that financial report, you had a few days, maybe a week.
Yeah, 3 days.
3 days. Was there a point in those 3 days where you were thinking, this isn't going to happen? this is just like, did you have that at all, or was it just rainbow and sunshine and hard work?
Oh no, there was a great deal of fear with that one because I had to take work that was done by economists, some of whom I'm friends with today, and take that and transform that into language that Albertans could understand without losing the factual basis of it. And so when I had to go back to them the morning after I got there and said, "Here's the draft. Have I got this right?" You can imagine sitting in a room of people I didn't know at that time. These are all economists, professors, university presidents. Like, this is an audience I'm not used to, was not used to dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
I was scared to death that they would say, "You missed the point here," or "This isn't it," because then we had no time. I didn't know where I'd go next if this wasn't it. And that, the pressure of time, often you have more time to do things like that, but I had no time. The first shot had to be the best shot.
Were you surprised by the reaction when people heard what you had to say, that there's probably different points of view, both agreeing or disagreeing, but the support that you had when you were going through and presenting this, and you're worried whether it's right, you're unsure?
Yeah, I was surprised in a like, I felt it was right. So, I was confident in it. I felt good about it. And I think I was more grateful. It was a sense of gratitude from these people who understood what my role was, not to tell them what they had done was wrong or not good or anything, but to translate it and to take their work and reshape it into something else. So I was grateful that they gave me permission to be able to do that.
So another part of the conversation that I want to go into is the idea of courageous leadership, and that idea is where you've gone through a large number of battles. you've had your ups, you've had your downs, and you're really kind of solidifying kind of your values in a different way, where you're probably going to stand strong when somebody asks you a question about what you're doing or challenges you on something. It sounds to me that over time you really found this idea as a translator,
Right?
it's as a communicator.
Yeah.
Was there a time where you had this feeling that you were able to take this idea that you were confident in and then take it to a bigger level, and do it in a way where it might not have ever been done before?
Right. It's, I think the idea that popped into my mind, Scott, when you were talking, is that I think one of the best things for people and people like me, if you're able to see what you're really good at, and you can use that as your life's work. And so I'm a communications person, but primarily I'm a writer, because I love the challenge of taking big complex ideas or issues and making them simple, so you can engage with the right people and they understand, they know what you're talking about. And so that's been my business. That's been so much of what I've done, both in my business when I'm coaching and working with organizations. Okay, I get what you're talking about. I think it's really about this, to try and find those simple nuggets. And the same thing with ATB. My job there in so many ways was not only to come up with the ideas, but to help other leaders make their ideas simple and compelling so that people would understand it. So for me, that's what I've been able to do with my whole career. And I think for people sometimes it's hard to understand, to think about yourself and to think, what's really the very best thing that I'm good at?
Mm.
What is it? Because that will bring you the joy. That will allow you to be a courageous leader because you know where your sweet spot is. You know what you are the very best at, and you can leverage that. Um, I think I'm a big fan of Brené Brown generally, but she has this one line that says, every day as a leader, you have to choose between courage and comfort. And I think about that a lot because you can't choose courage every day or you drive people crazy around you. Um, you just will. And there are times when the tried and true path is the right one to take. But on the other hand, if you choose comfort every day, you will fail as a leader. You will, because you will miss opportunities. And so I think it's finding that right place. I think courageous leaders, first of all, they have a strong sense of purpose. I think that's just critical. I think they choose amazing people to be around them, and then they trust them. They give them the runway and the path to say, this is where we're going. I trust you to get there. And then you're passionate as hell about trying to get there. If you don't really deeply care and you don't show the people around you that you really, really care, you're not going to get there. It's really about putting that magic of those ingredients together. I think that's what courageous leaders do.
Yeah. The other part of it that I've been thinking about more as well is the idea of the selfish leader versus the selfless leader, right? And I don't know if it's a maturity thing or whether it's an individual person thing, but it's nice when that tips over from self-interest to selflessness.
Yeah.
Like for yourself, did you find there was a time where either you move more towards kind of a selflessness, or people around you that you recognize that they'd kind of grown beyond just themselves?
Right. For me, I think because I'm the kind of person that's always been comfortable kind of being more behind the scenes and helping others to succeed. A big part of uh, uh, my previous careers have been about that, and I'm very comfortable coaching leaders and talking with leaders and saying, yeah, you might think this is how you should be framing that or the route you should think you should go on, but I don't think that's going to work. So I'm quite comfortable doing that. So for me, it's not so much about me, but who I've seen leaders who honestly are truly and completely in it for all the right reasons and not themselves, who really get their self-satisfaction out of seeing all of the people and their organization around them succeed. I've worked with remarkable leaders like that. I've also seen some who just I don't think are going to get there because they see things through. I wouldn't call them selfish, but they see things through their self lens first, and so that's a hard thing to get beyond that, to be able to put yourself to the side, and see it through a different lens. Um, I don't think those people would see themselves as selfish. I think they honestly believe that they're trying to do the right thing for the organization or the people around them. I think I think they maybe see that by themselves being successful, everybody else is successful as well.
Hmm.
Whereas rather than saying by everybody else being successful and feeling joy and gratitude and whatever in what they do, then I will feel successful and my company will feel successful as well. It's just flipping things around.
It's a little bit different. The last thing I wanted to kind of talk about was kind of with our current state of affairs. It's just a little bit different right now, with everyone staying indoors and just kind of changing up their routines. How does courageous leadership fit into our present day? And why is it important? And how can that how does it have a place?
Oh, more so than ever. I think this is absolutely the time. I talked about courage and comfort. There is no comfort right now. There's virtually none. It's gone.
There's no go except this chair and your
Yeah,
couch.
my chair is comfy, but other than that, I think this is the time, honestly, where I really, really hope courageous leaders step up. And because I think I don't want to go on this tangent because I know we'll run out of time. I think we have a time, this is a time where we can leap forward and create new things that are brand new and better than the past. I think this is a time, and you see little things of it, little indications of it happening. You look at the restaurants that are shut down and have switched to complete delivery. They found a way to make that work so they can keep their businesses alive. You look at company, you look at distillers that are making hand sanitizer. You look at people that are looking for small opportunities to keep their businesses alive and going. And that gives me a great deal of hope. Um, those aren't creating miracles overnight. But I think I'm hopeful that that this really unfortunate time is going to bring out the resilience and the creativity and perhaps the boldness of people to say, let's try something different. Let's give this a try. Just maybe a small idea might not work. But what do we got to lose? Because the old ways of doing things, we're not going to go back to them. There's no going back. And it's like I said to you the other day when Scott, when we were talking, I don't believe that we're going to bounce back. We're going to
Mm-mm.
bounce forward. And so I really hope that this is a time when courageous leaders step forward and say, let's give this a try.
Yeah, and I think that one important part of it is, and I think we've talked about this a bit, is even though you can't go out to a restaurant and have a glass of wine, or if you can't go home with the family and spend time together, just doing all the natural things that you do every day, we are communicating and
We
making
hope.
an effort to communicate differently, right? And I think it's a part of the being courageous is having that group of people that you can rely on and trust and you care
Absolutely.
about. And the only way the courageous leaders are going to happen is if we create a community for them and we
Yeah.
create our small communities and we start working together and trying to help each other out.
Scott, I couldn't agree more. I think if there's anything that I could say from my own experience, and especially even now, my experience now, surround yourself with people that will inspire you, support you, love you, kick you in the pants sometimes when you need it. Like just more than ever, it's just so important. None of us are on this journey by ourselves. And I think it's one of the good things that I see now. I could spend all day just with people reaching out to me and saying, "Can we have a conversation? I'm dealing with this. How can I deal with this?" It's wonderful. Whereas before, I think we were stuck in a whole bunch of meetings, but
Hmm.
maybe we didn't actually deal with things. Maybe although we're not touching each other, or we're not close to each other face to face, maybe we actually are dealing with things in a very human way because we're trying to support each other and find ways through this.
Yeah, yeah, we're trying to find each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Peggy, it's such a pleasure
Oh, it's
speaking
always
with
great
you.
talking to you, Scott.
And yeah, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.
Absolutely. Happy to do it anytime.